Hello again to all you statue collecting enthusiasts. Jason back again for another statue review. Today we have the XM Studios Rocket and Groot. A nice companion piece to the Starlord, which I have previously reviewed. If you haven't seen it, check out that review. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the review. So here we have XM Studios Rocket and Groot. Now, before I get into the actual review of the statue, let's talk about what's in the box. So first of all, it came in an enormous box. Just one giant box, unlike a lot of other statues of the size that'll come in two boxes. Just one enormous box. Like XM Studios does, it comes in this sort of a hard, thick black box with just the name. Rocket and Groot. I kind of like this. They don't come with art boxes, and I don't miss it, to be honest, because I like how they package them with these straps. So you don't even have to take this out of the shipper. You can just sort of pull the top off, get your statue out, nice and clean, without needing to worry about pulling out the art box and the rest of that. There's the top of it. Anyways, standard, always great from XM. Inside the box, two things. You get the reference guide for when you're putting the statue back away, which I really do appreciate. I really hate having to constantly take pictures of statues as I take them out so that I don't forget where everything goes once it's back. So this helps alleviate that concern. One thing that I'm not a massive fan of is how they've moved over the instructions to YouTube. I'd like to have it all in one place, but hey, not the end of the world. And then you get this great art print, Rocket and Groot. Nice. Someday maybe I'm going to display all my art prints, but for now, that will go back in the box. Beyond what is already on the statue, which we'll see in a second, you get two swap outs for Rocket, just two separate guns. So basically how it works is you can have two of the big gun, two of the small on each hand, or a combination of the two, like I have there. So without any more delay, let's get into the statue himself, or itself. There's two of these guys here. Let's start from the top. The most interesting stuff is up on the top, and let's start with Rocket. His face looks really good. Nice detail in his eyes. His teeth have a nice shimmer to them, and so do his gums, which is pretty cool. Makes him look more animal-like. So that's nice. I should say at the top of the video here that I struggle with this statue. I feel like this is one of those statues that I should like more than I do. I'll just say it right from the get-go. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie. As I've said on previous videos, I don't tend to collect live-action statues. I'm just not really into it. I like the comic book stuff, even if it's characters that have both been in the live action movie or in the comic books. I tend to go with the comic book versions, just because I dig that more. And that's why I went with this Rocket and Groot, which is more comic book based. Obviously, it has this kind of more traditional comic book outfit. Rocket does, matching the Starlord that I owned and reviewed as well. My problem is, previous to the MCU and previous to Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, I didn't really know these characters. I was aware of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't know much about them, and I certainly didn't have any sort of feeling towards them. Then I saw the movie, and for me, that was at that time it was the greatest movie of the decade, and it is probably still my favorite movie right now. And I have a lot of movies that sort of compete for that spot. A lot of older movies and some newer movies. I'm a big movie fan, but I just thought that what they did with the Guardians of the Galaxy, what James Gunn did with the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, was something truly special. He took these characters that nobody really knew about and really made the audience love them, and that's something that's difficult to do with a IP that's relatively unknown other than to hardcore fans. So I think it's because of that I'm like, all right, I look at this statue, kind of like I did with Starlord, and I'm like, okay, these are the characters that I love from that movie, but I don't think I love the characters outside of the movie. And I think that's what I'm struggling with here. I think it looks awesome. I think this is super cool. Really dynamic poses to both of them, and lots of detail, as we'll get into. But I just don't love the characters enough outside of the MCU versions of them to really appreciate the statue like I probably should, or like people who know and love these characters from the comics do. So let's get back to Rocket, though. Really nice detailing. His outfit is so similar to the Star-Lord one that I reviewed, which is really cool. I would imagine that side by side they would look amazing together. I just don't have Star-Lord anymore to compare to because I sold him soon after I did the review. His tail looks great. Lots of nice sculpt work and paint work in there. Look at that, how the paint on the tips of the bits of his tail is lighter and painted differently. Hats off to XM. They always do just a fantastic job when it comes to paint. Look at the details in his gun. There's a bit of like a metallic fleck to parts of the gun where other parts of it are a little bit more matte, which is super cool. The gun looks futuristic, but also it looks like something that could really be used. Rocket has some fun pouches on his belt, superhero style. His belt really looks like sort of a brown leathery belt, whereas the rest of his outfit, like Star-Lord's, looks leathery but colored leather with some sort of mesh breathable material down in the bottom there, in the armpits and along the crotchal area. So, as of course, Rocket doesn't have shoes on. He's clutching Groot here with his feet. Pretty cool. Should be mentioned that Rocket can also detach from here and peg into this little spot here, and then he just sort of sits at the bottom. It's cool for taking pictures. It's a cool look because you can kind of take it up and have both of their portraits like this. But I think that this is a more fun way to display them with him riding Groot, since Groot is sort of his big bodyguard, so to speak. So let's get into Groot. Detailing in the wood of Groot is really, really nice. It's not showing up on camera as much as it is here, but he's a little bit of a deeper brown than you can see on camera, and the greens, the sort of moss-like elements, are really evident in person, and again, something that's not quite showing up on camera here, and that's unfortunate because it really makes little bits of him pop. It's like, you can see it in the areas where they want to draw your eye to. His clavicle, bits of his thigh, much like a review I did of Swamp Thing the other day. You could tell that they used color, chunks of different colors within him to sort of break up the monotony of the tones of the greens and browns. And it's kind of similar here. I think it was probably done a little bit better on Swamp Thing, but also that is just the character. He has more variation, whereas Groot is relatively, he's just all roots. So they've used a bit of kind of greeny, moss-like accents to break that up. So getting into, let's look at his face. His face is great. I like how even his teeth kind of they sort of look like they're made of wood. You can see the separation of them, but like kind of wood-like. His eyes are nice. The black around them really makes the white of them pop, and I think that's a really nice look. Sorry for the blurriness here. I'm not sure why that's happening. That's a cool sort of angle there where you can see the both of them. There's a lot of expression in his face, even though he's a wood creature. And there's a lot of flow and character to this version of his face as well. I didn't realize this before, but he kind of has a little elf ear almost there. His hands are nice, the pointy fingers, reaching back in that sort of aggressive pose, like he's shooting these 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 wood tentacles out of his arm towards the enemy. Very cool. Lots of different angles that you can take pictures from that really give it an awesome look. Sideways, up. Just an impressive, certainly an impressive statue and mold. I like how he's hunched over here. It really gives it that dynamic feeling of motion. And there's if you look at the flow of all of the roots in him, you really get the sense that things are moving up from his feet and pushing outward. Like all the energy is pushing towards his hand that he's shooting that the roots out of, which is a really cool look. Let's get again look into the details of his back here. Very neat. Again, you can see the variations in color of the greens and browns coming in from the back. Got a bit of a bony butt here. He needs to do his squats a bit more by the looks of things. Awesome big chunky foot in the back here. Now, one thing I'll mention, a lot of like there's a ton of little pieces that sort of detach off of him. And I'm not sure, I understand why they did it. They want a little bit of sort of a three-dimensional feel to him. So you can see this piece is like, there's a lot of that. And when I was putting it on, I'm like, is this really necessary? Could they not have just done this in the sculpt itself? Some of these things make more sense, like this. I guess that could be really fragile if it was all part of the sculpt. But some of the things that are just, you know, pieces of him, his chest, like this comes off. Is it necessary? I don't know. Maybe. Listen, I don't understand the logistics that go into creating a statue like this, you know. So maybe that was necessary. I just felt a bit tedious as I was putting them together, but who knows. So let's get into his base. This is the part that I'm not that fond of, to be honest. I get it. It's supposed to be a piece of the ship that has been downed, and it's still sort of red hot. But this doesn't look, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit nitpicky. The areas in here kind of have that sort of heat. You know, can't remember what the term is, but when heat, something extremely hot heats up metal, it has that sort of, it almost gets like a rainbowy color. There's a term for it. It's eluding me right now, but that looks pretty good. But this sort of orangey area around this lip that's supposed to represent it being, you know, still red hot, so to speak, I don't think looks as good. But you know, when you're looking at the statue from far away, no problem, it pops, and it probably actually ties in nicely to the base of Starlord. But just when I'm looking at it here, I just don't think it looks that impressive. And I'm not sure why there's like almost a wood look to the back of this thing. Is the back of the engine made of wood? I don't know. So that part of the base I'm not that big of a fan of. But interestingly enough, the base, the sub base here, I think is really cool. The stones, it's not just really interesting stonework with a lot of different colors in it, but it has this sort of pattern to it that you see in a lot of the MCU, this like honeycomb shaping to it, almost like the base, like in Cybertron in the Transformers movies, they also have the sort of honeycomb look to it. I think that's a really neat detail that I didn't even expect. This pipe is something that comes on and off as well. I appreciate the effort of adding these little pieces that just kind of make it look more complex and give some depth to the statue. But again, I don't know if they could have just been added into the original sculpt or not. So anyways, final thoughts. I like the statue. I wish I loved it. I really do, because I love the characters in the MCU. But the statue for me is listen, if you love these characters from the comics, you're going to love this statue, especially paired with Star-Lord. Like, make no mistake about it. It is a top-notch statue. From a quality and design and engineering standpoint, it's great. I can't find much fault in it other than my own opinion on the engine here. But do I love the statue? I don't. And that's why I'm actually selling it. Somebody has already put a down payment on it, and they're going to be picking it up. The reason I'm reviewing this is really just because I wanted to take it out of box and make sure that it's all looking okay for that person. And again, it is. It's a nice statue. Won't be in my collection for much longer, but definitely solid. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. You can find me on Instagram as well, prime.collectibles. And other than that, have a wonderful day. And that's it. Later.